Richard, it's quite humbling to know actually that you didn't leave school at the age of 3 to set up Innocent. You actually, like most of us here, had some pretty unglamorous jobs compared with the one you've got at the moment. So could you just tell us about, I think you had an epiphany once when you were on a factory floor. Could you share that with us?
Oh, well, that was the point when I decided to become an entrepreneur.
That's right.
Which was quite sort of, I was 16 and I lived in Huddersfield and my job was, I worked for the local dog biscuit factory, and the job was, I was literally assigned the task I had to get down on my hands and knees and pick up the dog biscuits that had fallen off the conveyor belt and put them into the bin. You paid £2 an hour. And I remember the time being on my hands and knees picking up dog biscuits, thinking to myself, this is really not a great job. But I'm quite a geeky guy as well, so I wanted to do it properly, I wanted to do it well. So I went up to the foreman and said, look, do you have I could do this better if I had a broom. Do you have a broom I could borrow? And he looked me dead in the eyes and just said, son, you are the broom. And that was the bit where I thought, I'm getting out of this dog biscuit factory, and then I set up a little gardening business that afternoon, which was a bit better than dog biscuits.
But that's quite a change point in your career, because imagine if you said, I'm the broom, thank you very much, sir. You'd have had a totally different career path.
Yes.
But you came up with the idea during a snowboarding weekend, or you came up with several ideas. What was one with Adam and John? What was one or two of the ideas that you came up with you're pleased you didn't actually go with?
Yeah, because our whole thing was the business is born out of friendship. So it's myself and my two closest friends wanting to set up a business together. So it started from that. We didn't meet over mutual love of fruit juice. It was about wanting to do things together. Then to come up with ideas, we actually had a sort of pious moment, as I think we all are when we're students. We said we want to do something noble and that will make life easier and better for people, and that was our starting point, and that led to what I can hand on heart say I think is the worst business idea in the history of terrible business ideas. It was this thing called the amazing electric bath, which was going to be a bath that would fill itself to a pre-designated level and pre-designated temperature, all at the touch of a magic button. And myself and Adam went snowboarding in the afternoon, left John, who was the engineer, to start working out how it would work, and he actually started sketching out drawings. And I remember sitting in a bar in Davos in Switzerland, the ski resort we're at, looking at these drawings and pointing out that all of them had water and electricity in close proximity, and we're supposed to be making life easier and better for people. We meant we're just going to be making life a lot shorter for people, so we said this is a really lame idea, and so we binned that one. And actually smoothies was the third idea. The second idea was we were going to rid the world of door keys. That was our next big thought. Terrible idea. Then smoothies just came from, we understood it, we wanted them ourselves, we were 26, we were drinking too much beer, eating too much pizza. It was kind of to solve the riddle of modern life, that people want to be healthy, but it's difficult to be so. So we wanted to make it easy.
Yeah, because you hadn't. You say in your book, which is a great book to read, by the way,
An Innocent Story,
that there's always an opportunity if there's an unmet customer need. So at 26 years old, running around London, what was the unmet customer need you were solving then?
Well, it was that. It was us getting up in the morning, feeling pretty lousy from the night before, and wanting to solve that. I don't know how you guys find it. I find that there's the good voice inside my head that wants me to lead a healthier life, and then there's the sort of things that get in the way of it, and that could be anything from working late and not making it to the gym, and or there's some slightly more exciting things that get in the way between you and your sort of healthier self. And I guess we've always aspired to be people's healthy habit. We've all got lots of bad ones, but we wanted to make it easy for people to have a good one.
So I suppose it's about being better, not necessarily different. I mean, you didn't invent the smoothie.
No, definitely not. In fact, there was already a smoothie been on the market for 4 years. I love people who come up with something absolutely brand new and original, and I can't claim that we did that. We saw a need and we thought we could come up with a way that would solve that need better. So a smoothie did exist, but it was a really mass sort of manufactured, heavily processed thing, and we said, no, we're called Innocent, we're just going to keep it really simple, going to do it naturally from fruit the way you'd want it to be made if you were making it yourself. And having that simple, easy to understand point of difference about being more natural, which delivers then better taste and better health, which are the reasons why people buy smoothies, that helped us sort of have a role to play on shelf.
So as a sort of a brand value, you mentioned the word natural there. Do you think natural encompasses more than better any other word the Innocent values?
Yeah, I'm sort of a bit of a stuck record. I would say that if you give me an hour, I can talk about Innocent. Give me one word, I'd say natural.
Right.
About natural products, natural ingredients, talking naturally, acting naturally, trying to get people that work at Fruit Towers to be the best version of their natural selves. It is a word that we use an awful lot, both in its literal connotations, but also in a sort of slightly more values-based sense.
Yeah, because I watched an interview, I think it was with you or John, where you were saying, coming up with these quirky little labels and stuff, it's just as you would talk to the co-founders, you talk in a very natural way, and that's the way we talk to our consumers. So
yes, it was never orchestrated, it was never designed, it reflects our own dumb sense of humour and the way that we talk to each other, and we just thought, well, we'd rather be ourselves than to be something that we're not. Yeah. And I think one of the things that has had an invisible but very real value to the business and the brand is that on our good days we're fully congruent with ourselves. So what we think and what we feel is the same as what we say, it's the same as what we do, it's the same as what we make. And there's just something about, I think, in some sort of subconscious, invisible way that leads to a greater trust and authenticity and integrity, which is powerful for any brand in any industry, but especially in food, where people kind of need to know that they trust the people that are making it because you're about to put it in your body. So it's pretty fundamental. Just
going back to the story then, so then you had the idea, you were 26 years old, running around town, unmet customer need, you solved it, but then you did something that a lot of people don't do, and that is you actually took action on it. And we've got a quote by Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, who says, "The true entrepreneur is a doer, not a dreamer. The critical ingredient is getting off your butt and doing something." And you took the first step. You actually took some money out, you made some smoothies, and you went to go and sell them down the marketplace. I know that you've been asked to tell this story more times than you probably sold innocent drinks, but if you could just tell us one more about what happened when you went down to the market.
Well, again, it was just, I guess we approached things very simply and with no cash, but the problem we were trying to solve was, is anyone going to like these smoothies, and are they going to pay the money that we need to sell them at? And because at that point, we'd made them in our kitchens and tried them out on our mums. And if your own mum doesn't think your products are good, then you know you're in trouble. So we needed some people that didn't know us. And
did mum like them, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, she did. She'd sort of be critical as well about how to make them better, but she'd be very supportive. We just had this great opportunity. It was coming up to the summer, and there was a local music festival near where we lived in West London, and we recognised that the people going to that festival are exactly the people that we would aspire to buy our drinks, and we thought we would just see if they liked them. So we bought £500 worth of fruit, turned it into our favourite recipe at the time, made 1,000 bottles of smoothies, and then sold them from a stall. And the stall was literally just some bales of hay and some planks of wood, some big things full of ice to keep the drinks cold. And to get I guess in a very simplistic way of doing market research, we just put up a big sign above the stall that said, should we give up our jobs to make these smoothies? And they had a bin that said yes on the front of it and a bin that said no on the front of it, and got people to buy the smoothies, drink, and vote with the empty bottles. And as a group of 3 friends, because we've been working with the idea for 6 months but still in our day jobs, as a group of 3 friends, we had all looked each other in the eye and said, if the yes bin is full at the end of that weekend, we will go in the next day and resign. So we had this sort of quite hot, sweaty Sunday evening when we realised the yes bin was full, and in fact, the only bottles in the no bin were actually from our parents who were trying to persuade us out of giving up our decent jobs at the time. But then we had this, so we all committed to each other that at 10:30 the following morning, we'd all resign from our jobs. And I remember stood outside my boss's office at 10:27 thinking, I'm not going to do this, because I'm just not convinced that they're going to do this. And so I went back and remember ringing about 10:33, ringing Adam and John going, have you resigned yet? And they're like, no. Have you resigned yet? And I'm no, I haven't either. And none of us wanted to go first, because I think we all suspected that the other 2 might just be doing it to stitch their mate up.
Because you had some pretty decent jobs there. You were working for some pretty good companies.
Yeah, no, we were very lucky, and they were brilliant about it. I worked in an ad agency, Adam worked at Virgin, and John worked at Bain, the management consultancy. Yeah. And they were just absolutely awesome about it. I mean, we're so massively grateful. The whole, in every which way, the UK, everything from our friends and families through to our workplaces to the press to the sort of the consumers, they've been really supportive of the business. Yeah. So my office actually, my place of work allowed us to work from there for 2 months for free and have Adam and John turn up and work from a little office there just to support us as we got going.
Where was that?
It was an ad agency called BMP.
Okay. So talk about the management team for a second then. A lot of people, when they set up a sort of a startup team, they have to sort of go through all this process of looking at psychometric reports, make sure there's balancing on the spectrum, you've got strengths and weaknesses met, and complementary team. Was it just luck that you guys came together with such a great complementary skill set, or do you actually not have a complementary skill set? It just worked.
Well, certainly one of the top three things that has allowed the business to be successful is that original team. We were extremely lucky that we were and are absolutely friends first and foremost, which brings a really high degree of trust. And I have to say, I've found trust to be the most efficient thing to have in business, because it means you don't have to worry and chase things up and make sure that people are going to do it. So having that trust, but then between the three of us, having a very similar set of values about what's important, what we care about, and a similar sort of ambition of where we want to get to, but how we're going to get to. We want to be successful in a way that we can be proud of. So to have all that alignment, but then actually the three of us are very different in terms of what we're each in theory good at.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was always going to be the consumer-facing guy. Adam was always the guy that was dealing with retailers, and John was always the guy dealing with the operations.
Yeah.
And so, and it took 5 minutes to divide up who was going to do what, because it was obvious to each of us what we were each going to do.
Yeah.
And we always said, actually, if you put the three of us together, you get one good business person, because we sort of cover off between us the sort of the things that you need. So I'm always in absolute awe of people that set businesses by themselves, because you've got to have such a strong left brain and such a strong right brain. You're dealing with everything from sort of financial accounting through to creative thinking, via people management versus innovation and negotiation. There's no way I would have or could have done it by myself, but as a team of three with shared values and complementary skills, it got us off to a great start.
Let's talk about, if we can, raising finance. So you were raising finance back in 1999, and with, I think a lot of people think must have been easy for you to raise finance. You had, all Cambridge grads, great idea, but you were raising finance in 1999 at the peak of the dot-com boom, not the fruit smoothie boom.
Yeah.
And you found it quite challenging. So what were some of the tell us some of the stories about that, and maybe one or two of the lessons that you learned from raising finance back then?
Well, but I have to say, I don't think we could have found it much harder, because, everyone said no. Absolutely every type of avenue and every version of that avenue said no. So we applied to 20 different banks for the Small Business Loan Guarantee Scheme, which is the thing where the government acts as a guarantor of the loan. Got turned down 20 times in a row. We applied to every venture capital fund in London that had anything to do with food and drink or anything to do cover our sort of bite size. They were flat no's, and they were really quite pointed no's. I remember one guy saying, you score 0 out of 5 in the investor's handbook. You're too young. You're all friends. You haven't appointed a clear leader, because we said we'd do it as the three of us together. You've never set up a business before, and you're going up against the world's biggest food and drinks companies. It's a dreadful idea. I'm never going to invest. And we were then burnt through all this. There's lots of networks of private investors, and we went to a thing. We had after 11 months of being turned down and being told no, it's not like a maybe. It was flat no's right from the beginning. Yeah. Our very, very last opportunity was we're given half an hour to pitch this room of 50 business angels through an organisation called Lento, which I think stands for London Enterprise Network Trust. And you get your half, it's like predates Dragon Den, it's a similar vibe. There's 50 multimillionaires in a room wanting to invest, and you get your half an hour to go and pitch in. And we spent 2 days in Adam's bedroom rehearsing the pitch over and over again, because we knew it was our absolute last shot at it. We went in, we sold our hearts out for half an hour, and at the end we said, if anyone's interested in investing or hearing more, could you put your hand up? And it's quite a sobering experience to see 50 people not put their hand up. And you just have to pack your silly little bottles of smoothies into your bag and walk out again. And that was it. And we went home that evening, and we sat on our blue IKEA sofa in our flat in Barron's Court and said, well, that's it, we're done. Because there just wasn't anyone left to ask. And partly as a joke and partly out of desperation, that evening we sent out an email that just said in the subject line, does anyone know anyone rich? And I nicked a load of email addresses from my ad agency where I used to work, and we kind of spammed half of London. And we got 2 responses back. One from an ex-boss of mine who confessed to having an affair with this tax exile that lived in Monte Carlo. So she suggested we should send the business plan to him. And he said no, but at least we got to find out some really great gossip. And then John had a friend who had, as a student, had done a year's work experience in the office of a guy that sometimes made investments, and he introduced us to him. And we went in to see him, and he said he thought the idea sucked, but he believed in the three of us, and he would put in 50 grand and get 200 grand, because we were trying to raise 250, the other 200 grand from his other 7 investors that he would always act as the lead investor for. He said, for the last 20 years, when I put my money in, they always follow. We went back to see him 3 weeks later, and for the first time in 20 years, all 7 of them said they turned him down. So then he was in this weird situation. He had to let us down or make good on the deal, and he put the full amount in himself. And he was telling this story about 4 years ago, a thing he was talking about. Someone said, did you put in that money out of obligation or because you thought it was a good investment? And he said, entirely out of obligation.
Well, he did a good job. He's recently sold some of the equity in the business, hasn't he? So
he loves it so much because he says it's his single. He's 75 years old. He says it's the single best investment he's made in a career is investing, and it's the one all his mates turned down. So he loves taking the piss out of his mates for saying no.
Richard, so I imagine some of those days were probably your darkest, particularly the smoothies in the bag walking away. So what I can feel the pain. What was it that made you have the conviction to plough on through those dark days?
Oh, I guess for me it was 2 things. One is the fear. The fear of it not happening was scarier than the fear of continuing. Yeah. I actually loved my time in advertising. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, but I was so scared of going back.
Right.
So I was prepared to keep going. No matter how horrible, it was better than going back. But then also the other big thing is you're doing it in a team of 3. So when I'm having a bad day, maybe Adam and John were having a better day, and we could just G each other up. So again, no, I wouldn't have started by myself, and I certainly wouldn't have got there by myself. It was having the team that got us there.
Got it. If